All right, thank you all for coming this evening. We're going to call to order the Tuesday, May 13th, 2025 discussion meeting. Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Macro, roll call.
Dr. Anderson.
Here.
Ms. Arendt.
Here.
Mr. Caligiuri.
Here.
Ms. Chudowitz.
Here.
Mrs. Purcell.
Here.
Dr. Richardson.
Here.
Mr. Sokolsky.
Here.
Mrs. Stepnick.
Here.
Mr. Strachke.
Here.
And Student Representative Mr. Drew Thacker.
Here.
Thank you. The board met in executive session on May 13th, 2025 to discuss litigation, safety, personnel, and real estate matters. Ms. Macro, if we could do citizens' comments.
If there's anybody in the audience that would like to make citizens' comments at this time, we ask that you step up to the podium one at a time. State your name, your residency within Plum, and you will be provided 3 minutes to speak to the board. This is a reminder that this is a time to share your concerns, ideas, suggestions with the board as opposed to a question and answer session with the board. I will provide a 3-minute timer for you to watch on the monitor so you can track your own time, but I will also give you a 30-second warning when you're getting close to the end of your time. When you're finished speaking, I ask that you just step to the end of the table here and place your name on the clipboard so that I spell it correctly in the minutes. If anybody would like to speak at this time, they may step forward to the podium.
Hi, my name is Jessica Popp. I'm here to respectfully request provisional enrollment for 2 of my children, Jace first grade and Jordan kindergarten in the upcoming 2025-2026 school year. Am I okay to do that here? In this forum?
She can say citizens' comments.
Yeah. You're permitted to say whatever you'd like.
My family is currently under, I'm sorry.
That's the only question. Are you a Plum citizen at this time?
I am not. I'm currently under contract with Miranda.
Okay, so that's, yeah, I don't, you're under contract to build a home? Is that what you're?
Yeah, in the
Yeah, you're
Parkside
good.
Estates.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay, you're.
So our family is under contract with Miranda at the Parkside Estates for our future residents, with an estimated completion date of November, no later than November of 2025. We're committed to Plumboro and our long-term home being there for the remainder of our days. And we understand that your policy is 60 days within start date. Unfortunately, due to the nature of new construction and Miranda, they have not given us an official estimated completion date. They won't do that within about a 2-week time frame, they've said. So we are willing and able to provide the signed contract that we've provided with our application, a letter from Miranda with the estimated window at least. We will work with them to try to at least gauge a window of time, and a notarized affidavit stating our intent to permanently reside. Sorry, I'm so upset. We're requesting a provisional enrollment to try to make stability for our kids because I'm worried about them starting in their current school and then moving 3 weeks in and establishing school connections. I'm so sorry. Oh my God. If necessary, even though we have significant costs approaching, we would explore a short-term lease if we needed to, or move the kids in with a family member in the area if needed. We'd really appreciate any concern. I'm so sorry. We'd appreciate any concern because we are committed to the community. We're very involved with our kids, and we just want to make this a lasting impression because one is starting kindergarten and one is starting first grade, and it's a tough transition. This is the only home they've ever lived in, and we're moving them out of our community. And we'd appreciate any consideration. I know this isn't a question and answer, but we're just looking for any level of consideration to the application we've provided. At this point, it's been declined, I guess, because of the 60-day time frame, and we don't have an estimated completion date. Our Miranda representative is out of the country right now, so I can't get that, and the kindergarten orientation to come to the school is May 28th, I believe. We wanted our kids to at least come and see the school that they're going to be attending, but it's not looking as though they'll be able to attend that without the approval. So any consideration that would be able to be provided to allow them to start, because they said October 18th, we would have to be in the residency. Unfortunately, we may, but we may not be. And I don't have an answer to that just now.
So one, I totally hear your mother's heart.
I'm so sorry.
You're totally fine. I would probably be crying too. And two, Dr. Walsh will reach out to you. He's the superintendent, so he'll reach out to you. If you can make sure to just leave your contact information, he'll be in touch with you. Okay?
Yeah, okay, thank you for
absolutely.
your consideration.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sorry I'm such a mess.
Oh, please don't even.
With your name, just put like your email and a good phone number right on the lines there, okay? Is there anybody else that would like to speak at this time? Okay, Dr. Anderson, back to you.
Yep. Okay, we'll start off with academic achievements and activities. Myself, lead board liaison. Letter A, grants and donations. We have Brian Stevens at O Block Elementary for $175 through donors Tues. And then Ms. Griggle and Food Services receiving 2 anonymous donations, one for $123 and another for $1,000 to pay off lunch account balances. Any questions or concerns? Do we have 5 to move those forward?
I have a question about the lunch account balances. How do we determine whose lunch accounts get?
Mr. Manzer?
Is it just way past due, or how does that work?
So Jessica Griggle, our food service director, works with the guidance counselors to determine if they're students of certain need. And typically they're reduced kids price lunches, or ones that have been in certain circumstances that have generated a balance that maybe now they're approved, but they weren't before. It's very circumstantial about which ones.
I would add that sometimes they're not anonymous. They will say it's directed to this building, and we will honor their wishes.
Okay, letter B, Colonel Nosak and Master Sergeant Butler request to attend the Mountaineer Connect training school with 8 participating JROTC students at no cost to the district. Any questions or concerns? Do we have 5 to move it forward? Thank you. And then again, JROTC going to Camp Outdoor Odyssey with 18 participating students on July 6th through 11th at a cost of $400 to the district. Any questions or concerns? I think these are 2 awesome opportunities for our students. Do we have 5 to move it forward? Thank you. Okay, and letter D, Rachel Ortiz, our world languages teacher, to go to the AP Summer Institute June 24th to the 27th at a cost of $2,300.
Dr. Anderson, I was going to ask Dr. Boyers if he could talk a little bit about this and the last time we've sent somebody for training.
Thanks, Dr. Walsh. Yes, so Ms. Ortiz is requesting to go to the AP training. I think the last time she or others have been there have been roughly, for her specifically, 16 years. So things have changed, obviously, with AP requirements and things of that nature. So, and it also, there's a cost associated to it, but she's obviously going over the summer to improve her craft and be prepared to prepare her students throughout.
And as the board is aware that this is in cycle, we just approved new resources. So that's why we're looking forward to moving or recommending this to the board.
Any questions, concerns, comments? Do we have 5 to move it forward? Thank you. All right, letter E, Dr. Zarmak, Plum Middle School principal, requesting to participate in the PA Education Policy Leadership Center Fellowship Program from September through May of next year at a cost of $5,000 to the district.
I would say Dr. Anderson. I was going to ask Dr. Thomas, who went through this program, if he could just share his experience and the value added here.
Sure.
So this is sponsored by EPLC. It's predominantly a virtual experience except for 3 strategic trips. One is a split 2-day to the U.S. Army War College in Carlisle and Gettysburg. All of these are leadership retreat experiences where they're actually looking at leadership and action based on that particular one. The U.S. Army War College is still a highlight of my career. The second is to Washington, D.C. for an advocacy day about educational policy at the federal level. And the third is an educational advocacy day on the Hill in Harrisburg. The rest of these trainings, or experiences rather, are virtual, and it's a whole host of statewide leadership from all walks of life in governance, as well as agency support all across Pennsylvania. So I learned a tremendous amount of leadership skill and capacity. Dr. Zarmak, being at the middle school level, I think has the opportunity to grow. And as one of our HR mantras, we're constantly trying to grow leaders from within. And so this is an opportunity to provide that.
Yeah, it sounds like a great opportunity. Any comments, concerns, questions? All right, do we have 5 to move it forward? Wonderful. Dr. Zarmak, thank you for being willing to go. All right, letter G, 25-26 parent-student hand. Oh, did I miss one? Oh, sorry. I scrolled too high. Letter F, annual renewal of the AIU Waterfront Learning Agreement for the 25-26 school year.
This is our annual agreement. As you would notice on the attachment, there's 2 options. We utilize option 1, and it's as needed for our students that participate with our cyber program.
Any questions or concerns? Do we have 5 to move it forward? Thank you. Now, letter G, 25-26 Parent-Student Handbook. Who's kicking us off?
Dr. Boyers is going to be kicking us off here, and all the administrators are here for any questions that you may have. You will notice that there are some additions to the list this year. A couple years ago, we added PDLA, homeless. This year, special education and student services, athletics, parent sportsmanship handbook has been added, and Dr. Boyers is going to elaborate on all of this.
Thank you, Dr. Walsh. So as Dr. Walsh mentioned, we have our principals and some of our directors here this evening. Many of the handbooks for the schools have been updated to reflect respective changes within the school as well as supporting language throughout. Dr. Laura, under her leadership, has put together a pupil service in special education in collaboration with Dr. Thomas, which is a new addition. Typically, a lot of that information would be warehoused on one of our web pages for families to find, and so we thought, why not bring this to life in a handbook form? And it gives them other options, other touch points to find out specific information relative to IDEA, child find, some of the annual notices that we have to have in place, but also the process of the IEP itself can sometimes be a bit overwhelming and daunting as you have a team of educators coming in for your very first time. And so that handbook outlines some of those processes as well as some of the folks internally and externally that one could solicit information from if questions exist. So I thought that was a tremendous addition to our handbooks. The other piece is Mr. Carpenter has put together the sportsmanship handbook. We talk about athletics and we have a lot of folks in attendance, but we want to promote good sportsmanship. And so throughout the handbook, it articulates what sportsmanship is and what it looks like here in the Plum Borough School District. If you recall, I believe last fall, we were recognized as one of the sportsman school districts in the region. And so again, kind of curtailing off of that, but also promoting that positive environment for guests as well as our student athletes and coaches. That handbook emerged. We do have the administrators here, so if there are specific questions, I'll kick it over to them, but wanted to present the annual handbooks to the school board.
I would just add that this would be rolled out in Sapphire, and parents would have to acknowledge receipt of these manuals, especially the Parent Sportsman Handbook. I like the fact that we talk about it, but we're actually writing it down and we're defining it and setting the expectations of what it should look like and feel like when you're a participant at one of our events.
Any questions? There's a lot there, I know. No? No? Going once, going twice. Okay, do we have 5 to move those forward? Thank you. All right, letter H, 2526, the code of conduct.
So code of conduct is listed here with a summary of changes. This year, Dr. Zarmak has graciously decided that he wanted to lead this process, and I thank him for his efforts in collaboration with other principals and administrators to put together a succinct code of conduct. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Zarmak to explain some of the changes and answer any questions that may exist from the school board.
And as he's walking up, I just want to take a moment to thank the administrative team. There's a lot of work that goes into coordinating our efforts and communicating clear expectations on how we operate. And there's a lot of good work that was done here in regards to the handbooks and the code of conduct, and I can't thank them enough for their time and efforts.
Good evening. So on page 6, one of them you'll see is the academic integrity section that was updated. This came about through the AI core team as well. That way we have language in there specific to AI and the use of it in the classrooms. So the students know the expectations, but also the teachers communicate with that and hold the kids accountable for any actions. And that's updated through policy 815.1. Also, the high school has removed the seasonal parking pass and just a year parking pass as well, and any changes that go in reflect the summary charges that could go along with that within the parking lots. The electronic devices were updated as well, and that ties back into 815.1 with the personally owned electronic devices. Some language was updated with the in-school and out-of-school suspensions and when kids could return to their activities or athletic events following a suspension as well. The flex language was in there still. We removed that since we no longer utilize flex, which was something back during COVID. So that was completely eliminated. The student access to technology section includes policies that were updated through the board to make those up to date. And we also included a social probation clause within the code of conduct, and that is based off of number of suspension days. So if you're suspended for 1 to 3 days, there's a multiplier that carries over into social events, whether you're participating in the athletic or the extracurricular event, but also attending those events as well during the school to support the school.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
Sorry. I've heard a lot this school year in particular, prom being the biggest thing we threaten kids with. And does that fall under the social activities, considering, I mean, I don't know, you prepay, you pre-do whatever, something transpires, you're in the, at some point, when do we realize we're harming kids by doing that?
That would be a social event, and that's also, you know, there are certain expectations whenever you attend that event. So if you can't meet those expectations during the school day, there's other people who also pay a lot of money to go to those events, and that's always something that has been in there.
Sure. I just think there needs to be a threshold in which, when we take that away.
I hear you.
Do you see what I'm saying too? Like,
Yeah.
if it's the tickets paid for, and something transpires, at some point, when is enough enough?
I'm going to go back to my coaching days, that you cannot go on a school dance, behave inappropriately in school, and expect to put the uniform on with the district's name on it and participate. You cannot break our substance abuse policy and expect to go to prom or dance. To your point, I believe that our administrators are reasonable, but when you hit a certain level of an infraction, there are consequences to this. And the social probation will, I believe, carry more weight than maybe a day or two suspension when you add that multiplier. And at the end of the day, what we're striving for is producing young men and women that are going to follow the rules and do what's expected and not reward people that break the rules and expect to have special carve-outs to play on the team event or go to a social event when you're not abiding by the rules. So I think our administrators are reasonable and work with families in regards to discipline, but there's certain levels of infraction that once you hit that threshold, there are consequences. And our students, I think if they have a better understanding of this, we're going to have a better environment for all, knowing this.
I don't disagree. I just feel like this year in particular, I heard about prom being threatened from dozens of people.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, couldn't we find a better avenue here than that?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you missed a basketball game or you can't go start in your baseball game or
Yeah.
sorry for your luck, you don't get to participate in the musical tomorrow. That's just something at some level I think needs a little bit different consideration. And I hope this is from this day going forward and involves any activity where purple and gold will be worn.
I agree. And I think that's the only way we're going to see a change in behavior. I do give, there was a lot of thought that went into this. We did a needs assessment. We looked internally of what's working, looking at our data. And we also look at externally, what other districts have done and what they have put in place and what has been successful. And Dr. Zarmak's effort in putting together this thoughtful recommendation, I think is creating a better environment for all. And I think it sends a clear message that inappropriate behavior, there's consequences for that. And I agree with you in regards to, I don't want kids to come in and hear every day that you're not going to prom, you're not going to participate in an event. But on the other end, if they're being called down to the administration office for disciplinary infractions, that might be an appropriate conversation to start having with them too. So.
With that being said, for that particular section, it says 3-day suspension, the multiplier is 2, but then the period is 2 to 6 days. So should we adjust that to 6 days?
That would be depending on like the circumstances. So that kind of gives some flexibility within that time. Does that answer your question?
So there's discretion.
I understand what you're
Yes.
saying, but I feel like that's confusing. So we're saying some kids might get 2, some kids might get 3. How are we
Yeah,
defining that?
depending on what the infraction is,
And
that's
do we have a
correct.
definition of what that would look like so that it's not up for interpretation?
That would be something that we would have conversations about between the administration, be consistent with each
Yeah.
other. We would have conversations with that.
Okay, and then should we change school days then? Should it not say school days? Should it just say activity days or something? Because some events don't occur just on school days. So right now it's saying the activity exclusion is on school days.
So to your point, and that's your point. If there's a team that's participating in an event on a Saturday,
Right.
somehow I think we need an asterisk to include that this includes.
Well, look
Yeah.
at page 22 above it.
Yeah.
Because that actually modified, and I know there have been instances where this came into play this year, where it's saying it's the school day after. So tell me if I'm right in my example, Dr. Zarmak. If the student had an infraction on a Friday and they received 1-day suspension, they can't participate in anything Friday night or Saturday or Sunday. Monday, they come back to school, they can participate in an event Monday after school.
That is correct.
Yeah, so it means school days in the sense that the weekend, if you screw up on Friday, if you're suspended on Friday, Saturday and Sunday count towards your Friday. You know what I mean? They fall into that. They're not separate days that are getting counted.
I guess my question becomes to both of your points.
What? You
And
guys-
sorry to confuse this, Dr. Zarmak, more than it already is, I'm sure, but anyway. Let's say a team is going on a trip, or, Drew's group that went to Seven Springs, they're going on a trip
it's multiple days. And what then happens if there's this infraction that happens before that trip? And there's going to be a punishment. Do you not get to go on the trip? Do you
Correct.
get to go on the trip late? Like, is this set in stone now from today going forward, or whenever we vote on this? I'm just, because
Yeah,
to the
yes,
point,
you're
if it happens on Friday, you, after your suspension day, you're now able to come back. Well, if it
These-
happens on Friday and your team is leaving on Saturday or on Sunday for a week,
These are,
how does that then work?
Yeah.
Because,
these
we
are
get that,
common.
we raised money for this, we did this for this, we have flights booked for this, like,
If I
how do
may-
we then handle that piece,
Let me
right?
answer
Like,
that. I like
I'm
it.
trying to think
Yeah.
ahead about various
There's-
circumstances to
3,500 examples that we have, of
Sure.
students and what could and could not happen.
but
The
this is
adminis-
one that's happened.
I understand, but the administration has some discretion in regards to this, and we work with families, and we work with being reasonable with families. To answer your question, if there's a trip and they're going to Seven Springs and you're still on social probation, then no, you're not going to go. So those are multiple conversations. I will tell you as a former coach, if you weren't able to attend the beginning, I don't want you at the end.
Sure.
So a lot of this are going to be individual conversations. Our administrative team works with families. We're going to be reasonable, but I hear both of you loud and clear. But those are the conversations that happen in the room with kids and with families.
Okay, wait, I'm
And-
trying to understand what you pointed out. So if you're saying I get suspended on Friday,
So you
There's a
served it on
tournament.
Friday. You served it Friday. You're
Right.
suspended.
so there's games Saturday, Sunday. I can't
You're
go
out.
Saturday, Sunday, or Monday? Is that what you're saying?
No, you can't, you could go Monday, you cannot go Saturday
You
or
came back
Sunday.
to school, so you came to school, you participated in
you
learning,
can
now
go.
you can go participate in an extracurricular activity.
So
I think that's a good way to
potentially
think about
schools
it.
are- Students could be missing weeks because it's just school days. We're only counting school days then, that's what you're saying. We're only
Directed at
counting
him,
school
because I'm just interpreting.
Yes,
it from
you
above,
are,
yeah.
yes, you are correct. And I think maybe the phrasing it, when you return to instruction, that would, then you can move on. To be I don't want to sound heartless, but the bottom line is, make good decisions and don't put yourself or your
I'm
teammates
fine
in
with
this
it. I mean, I'm
situation.
fine with that. I just want to be clear because
Yes.
parents are going to reference this and then come back and say, this is what it says. So
Yeah.
I just think if
Yeah.
that is it,
Right.
we just need to be clear on the message that we're sending.
And I could tell you, like, the page 22 piece, that one was a big deal that got brought up in a specific instance this year for a student because it didn't say the school day after. And so it left ambiguity. Now, when you say the school day after, it removes the ambiguity that says, yes,
Right.
the weekend is included because you didn't come back to learning yet. And I just like thinking, maybe that's the educator in me, like, extracurriculars are extra. You gotta come to school, and once you've done the learning, then you get to participate in the extra piece. To me, it connects the two more. So it stinks for Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
You know, it stinks for
Yeah.
practices, right? Like, you can't participate in practice Saturday or Sunday. You can't if your suspension is on Friday.
I'm not saying I'm the smartest person in the room, but if I'm confused, other people are going to be. So I just feel like we need to just clarify it.
Okay, and going back to like the 2 to 6 days too, that is another, we have that option to work through that as well, but as long as those kids aren't putting themselves in that situation, then we'll be good. And I think it's important that they do know that up front.
So we're saying the multiplier for the other ones are 3, so the 4 to 6 and 12 to 18 makes sense to me. So when I read it, the 2, that's why I asked.
Okay. Sorry for the confusion. Also, modified, as you see on page 34, failure to carry out instruction or comply with a reasonable request is a level 1. So as an administrator, if we or a teacher or any adult in that building, no matter who you are, has a reasonable request to a student and they don't abide by that, that is where that would come in. So any adult that addresses a kid with a reasonable request, it doesn't matter who you are, they need to respect that. And if they don't, then that would fall under a level 1 example. Also, modified detention to after-school detention, that's something that is being added as well, that we didn't have prior, but we will have for next school year. On top of that, also including a Saturday school opportunity for the kids. So if the after school isn't, then we could carry that over to a Saturday school opportunity for them to reflect on their actions as well. Anything else? Any other questions? All right. And again, we just want to be fair and consistent, and these will be very well communicated to the students so they know the expectations as well.
I think that's the key piece, right? You know what I mean? I think that's the key piece, especially with the social probation. I support it, to your point. If you make good decisions, you get to participate in things, but I think the student who gets blindsided by it, who doesn't understand or know, is the family who we're going to frustrate. But if we're communicating it very, very clearly.
Yeah, and I could speak for the middle school. We have grade level meetings, and every grade level is brought down at the beginning of the year. We don't do it the first 2 days of school, but probably the third day of school. And we will sit them down in the auditorium and we will review everything with them. We tie that into our PBIS model as well to the students, so that they have an opportunity to ask questions as well. We also follow up at the start of the second semester and do the same thing to send those kids, to all the kids, a reminder, this is the expectations. If you don't, these are the consequences or other avenues that could be explored.
I'm just thinking of one other thing. Is there anything in the athletic handbook that references the social probation? I didn't check the two of them and cross-reference it.
That's a good question.
I just think that'd be a great place.
Off the top of my head, I can't answer that, but
Yeah.
I would tie that back to, you're still representing the school district, so this would apply.
But and I know the parent signs off, but I think a double doozy of just being able to say, hey, it was in the athletic handbook that you understand
emphasize it.
that this is a part of it. You know what I mean? I didn't look closely for it, but it might be good to add there before we vote on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so.
We will add that for our next meeting and have a link to the code of conduct so that it all connects.
Yeah.
Okay.
And tying back to Dr. Walsh's point, in Sapphire, the kids go through and they check that them and their parents also reviewed it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have 5 to move the code of conduct forward? Thank you. Okay, comprehensive plan presentation.
Okay, Dr. Boyers, I just want to take a moment and thank Dr. Boyers for his effort in working with our comprehensive plan, our steering committees, and our various teams. As this board recalls, I requested an extension of our comprehensive plan. It was due, I believe, this spring. And I asked for an extension, and the reason that we did that was so that we could incorporate our portrait of a graduate. And I think as Dr. Boyers is going through this, you're going to see how this is layered and it's all connected and how it comes together. So, Dr. Boyers.
Thank you, Dr. Walsh. Just want to thank the board and obviously the 32 members that were a part of our core team, which I'll highlight here momentarily. This was a true collaborative event, bringing the portrait and then bringing the portrait into the strategic plan to bring it to life. And so we're going to kind of level that throughout. Oops, sorry guys, my apologies. It's a little bit of a delay there. So the comprehensive plan outlines our mission, vision, our beliefs. We conduct a SWOT analysis on all of our data, and then we have other layered components with standards, our assessments, the induction plan to support new employees as they come into our organization, our professional development, or Act 48, or how are we going to grow our employees throughout that time, student services assurances, so again, how are we going to service different populations of students, and then lastly, our gifted plan insurance, and how are we enriching students who will meet that gifted criterion. We started our framework based upon leadership because the notion of the strategic plan for some is really a document that sits on an electronic shelf. And Dr. Thomas and I, when tasked with this opportunity, really wanted to bring this to life. And so we dug deep into the research. Marzano is an educational researcher, and Marzano points to a couple of unique things. First and foremost, it has to be a collaborative effort. Again, our core team indeed was collaborative in regarding how the work was done, but also the cross-section of folks that were included in that process. Next is the non-negotiable goals. We spent a lot of time within our team talking about what are audacious goals that we want the Plum Borough School District to achieve. And to achieve those goals, what are we willing to stop doing that maybe isn't benefiting the trajectory of moving towards that attainment and achievement? Next is all of you lovely folks, that board alignment. And so when we bring recommendations to you and we talk about expenditures, does it align back to our strategic plan? Is there some level of coherence that exists here? And then how are we going to monitor and report out on those goals, whether we're making progress or not making progress, again, being transparent. And then what resources and tools are going to be needed to drive this plan forward. Next, we looked at the strategic planning process and engaging that community, again, that collaborative approach. How are we bringing different stakeholders to the table? Providing that direction and investment. So again, we'll highlight the goals of our strategic plan moving forward this evening. The purpose and value, again, mission, vision, and beliefs. And then lastly, the most important piece is, why are we doing this? The purpose is to drive student achievement, growth, and have better student outcomes. As I've mentioned, our core team is linked there. That was board approved as part of the PDE process. But again, just to save some space on here, we had student representation from the middle level and high school level. Our students actually did a fantastic job of leading several of our activities. They started many of our activities through our first sessions and as well as culminated and closed them up. It was really neat to see this process come forward in our last meeting because they talked about the impact of this strategic plan on them and their peers. So that really brought it full circle. So where do we land here? So throughout the development of our mission, vision, and our beliefs, as well as our goals, we worked in collaboration with the core team, but we also worked with our faculty at large. We had several iterations and renditions of mission, vision, and beliefs that you'll see. After lots of analysis and feedback from our team, these are the mission, vision, and beliefs that we put forward. So our mission is the Plum Borough School District empowers learners to thrive in a changing environment with inclusive, innovative learning experiences that foster problem solving, critical thinking, and lifelong growth. So immediately you see the portrait of a graduate and those competencies render their heads right there as part of our mission as we drive our plan forward. Next is our vision. So we strive for all learners to feel a deep sense of connection that came out through our core team work, as well as have the skills and the confidence to shape their futures and have strong partnerships with family, staff, and community. Again, you will see later on in the presentation the alignment to our goals that we're proposing in the strategic plan. And I think, Dr. Thomas, I'm going to kick it over to you, sir.
So Dr. Boyers and I joked today that these are our hardcore beliefs. We will not deviate from these beliefs. You'll notice that the core beliefs very much model as a part of the team are 5 areas of the portrait. Access and opportunity, communication, adaptability and resilience, integrity and empathy, and innovation. We feel that our core beliefs do reflect exactly the type of young adult we do want to be putting out into the world and to be modeling these beliefs going forward. So it leads us to a tagline, and we did probably have at one point in our office about 40 versions of a tagline that we finally were able to take down to 4 or 5, and then through the administrative team and SAC, we were able to bring this to one tagline. And I think it's very purposeful to have a tagline because this is what we use on print media. This is things that we can use to use on slide decks like you have in front of you, letterhead, etc. Purposeful learning to transform tomorrow's leaders. Notice it doesn't provide the guarantee of what learning we are going to be providing to them and what they should be measured after they graduate from Plum, but it does talk about the present and now in terms of the purposeful learning. So we are very intentional about the learning that we want to provide to our students. And I think we gleaned a lot of this from the students in the room. They were very good. Dr. Richardson can attest that we got great feedback. Dr. Anderson saw people talk, in the room. I think our kids really spoke to what they believe they want to see for future generations of Plum graduates. So we're going to tie into the more nuts and bolts of where are we moving in terms of our goals. Dr. Borders and I tried to frame these as SMART goals: strategic, measurable, accountable, timely, time-sensitive, etc. So by August of 2027, we're looking at student enrichment opportunities to increase or expand, rather, by 25%. So simply 1 out of 4. So if we're going to be creating something for every 4 items, we're creating 1 more. You notice that the student enrichment opportunities are tied to student course selection data and our post-graduation feedback surveys. And it ties very much into being very strategic about how we schedule the course offerings that we provide across all of our buildings. But when you go into the post-graduation feedback surveys, we're talking about experiences or life experiences that students have had in middle level and high school most recently to impact that. Our next priority is by fall of 26, we will implement a student advisory committee. And again, this came very much from our kids in terms of informing curriculum feedback loops and instructional practices. And we would be then sharing that quarterly with school leadership across all K-12. And the priority 3 is 100% of our teachers will embed one real-world learning experience, or interdisciplinary cross-curricular project per semester. And we feel that we would be able to showcase that through our annual instructional rounds. And so notice we didn't specify which content areas would work together, but we said that we would set us on a course to do that priority. Under the area of growth and wellness, we're hoping to offer student mental health wellness outlets with usage rate and student satisfaction, as well as by next year, looking at all of our professional learning opportunities and trauma-informed practices and wellness through our professional learning attendance logs. So that's more of a staff piece, but certainly will support and trickle down to students. Through family and community engagement, and this is something we heard very loud and clear through the process. We feel that going into the fall of 26, so we're looking at August, fall, and then in 26, 27, we are going to have to be implementing something that ties into family learning. We feel that we do a very good job at working with kids, but sometimes now we're expanding our reach and our circle of influence, if you will, to families. We've heard this from our student services groups. There's a lot of work in terms of transition services and special education that we see those trends happening now. Now we're thinking of the whole educational community here at Plum. And so, again, reading those is just redundant. We're trying to create more opportunities for family and community engagement. And I want to go on record by saying this is going to be a tall task. This is not going to be easy. People who naturally do not have a propensity to come out and talk to anything else, usually other than athletics, or whether their kid was in the musical. This is something where, I say that in jest, that was supposed to elicit some humor. But truly, when we're talking about instructional methods in terms of math strategies, parents typically don't want necessarily to lean in and have you show them how to solve for X. They will be have more of a propensity to say, what are you doing for my child? We're trying to shift the narrative to, how can we help your child grow? And under safe and supportive schools, our school district has put a tremendous amount of time and effort into the hardening of our facilities. When we a lot of the things that you've heard this year in terms of strategics and such. But we are looking at behavioral norms and expectations. You heard Dr. Zarmak sort of frame about our meetings with students should be about not being reactive, but being proactive and saying, these are the expectations. To be a Plum Mustang, this is how you operate and behave, and model that behavior for kids in our schools and make sure that those expectations are clear in those grade level meetings. We're definitely looking more, and you'll hear the term restorative practices. When we were talking about the social exclusion piece earlier. I think this is a relevant piece. One of the items that the principals are looking to implement, again, it's an internal procedure, is a readmission conference. So if you are excluded from that social activity due to an infraction, there is an expectation that when you come back into the school environment, we have an opportunity to readmit you. And again, then it's over. The behavior's been judged, it's over. But when you're readmitted to the school, there is expectation set, and it gives the principals a face-to-face opportunity to work with counselors, social workers, and teachers to set that expectation. By the fall of 26, we are hoping to implement orientation events and peer mentoring. We've seen a lot of this through Rachel's challenge. We're now trying to expand our transition points by our buildings. You'll notice 4 to 5, 6 to 7, 8 to 9, and we're hoping to have 4 out of 5 students and families reporting that there is a level of comfort and readiness in those transition points through our district. And finally, we've sort of used different language for this, but I think I won with Dr. Boers. At one point we called this any given Tuesday, or Tuesday readiness plan, like just a regular cultural thing of saying any day we have to be ready. So we landed at be every day ready when we're talking about daily safety culture and community building strategies. And to tell you how serious we are about that, it means that if the strategic light goes off, everybody better be moving fast. We better be doing something as a reason to do that. So we have to be vigilant and have situational awareness at all times and be modeling those behaviors to our kids. So bringing us down the road here, I think it does sort of look like the Pantheon. The intent here is to start at the bottom. So you'll notice that all of our slide decks have been implementing this sort of flag banner of our 5 areas of portrait: adaptability, integrity, empathy, critical thinking, communications. That's really not a part of the graphic. That's really on the slide itself. But for the sake of this, I guess we'll say that it's founded on those pieces. The steps or the foundations of our school is certainly looking at, we strive for all learners to feel a deep sense of connection, have the skills and confidence that shape their futures, and have strong partnerships with family, staff, and community. And then we come up to basically our mission statement, and those are premised and support the 4 pillars of what we have in our comprehensive plan: student-centered learning, growth and wellness, family community engagement, and safe and supportive schools, all to support the roof, the pinnacle of what we want to have, which is the Plum Borough School District is purposeful learning to transform tomorrow's leaders. All of those are integral. We can't have a pillar without a foundation. We can't have a roof without a pillar. And so when you see the upward trajectory of that, our goal here is to give a very quick graphic to really show what we mean, to summarize the entire comprehensive plan into one graphic. And I thank Dr. Boers for his collaboration on this. The 2 of us have really enjoyed this project and initiative. And I think we owe it to the team of well over 30 people as well that had a lot of input to this as well. Dr. Boers, anything else?
No, the next part's for us, really, if you so choose this evening to move this forward, is that we'll go live tomorrow on the webpage. The webpage will have the comprehensive PDF of the entirety of the plan, and then we have a survey available. It'll be on the banner, so there's no digging for it. As folks want to access it, it'll be scrolling across our webpage, and then anyone can give feedback. It has to be on display for 28 days, which brings us almost in conjunction, a little over, or exceeding the 28 days, into the June 17th board meeting, where because the board will elect to hopefully adopt the strategic plan, and then we'll submit to PDE for their feedback and any edits, and then hopefully a final adoption. So that is the process, start to finish. I will also have it for the board in the executive summary coming up, and you'll also have a survey in the event that you want to trace through the lengthy document. I think it's roughly 40 to 50 pages in length, and then the survey there for any feedback that you may have. Matt and I will spend time reviewing that feedback before we bring it back to you on June 17th, and we'll be transparent about what feedback and needs to be from other stakeholders.
I open up with thanking Dr. Boers. I wanted to close by thanking Dr. Thomas. When we were going over this slide, it reminds me of when you said transitioning. It's almost like you're coming home to the last slide here of what we as an organization are about. these are the only two gentlemen that I will say that have had a mountain of information in front of them and are jovial in regards to the joy of the work in putting this forward. And I can't thank them both enough for taking all that information from all those different stakeholders and summarizing it and even symbolizing where we're going as a district. Many of you and Drew, we've had several sidebar conversations because I like to run my somewhat crazy ideas at times by our students. The way I have defined this year is that we are building out the foundation of where we're going as an organization. And I think this symbolizes that. Where are we going as an organization? What is our mission? What is our vision? What are our values? And where are we going? To the point with Drew, you've heard me say that there are parts of the organization, and I grew up in Plum. I'm a proud graduate of Plum. I am all about Plum. But there are still parts of Plum that look very similar when I was a student going through this high school in 1987. And looking at where are we going, I think the portrait clearly defined that students are not entering the same workspace that I did in 87 or in 1975 when our 50th reunion comes back to graduation than our students now. They are more interconnected. Technology is moving very quickly, and I believe our schools need to reflect that. The traditional model of what schools look like, I believe this builds a foundation to have some really in-depth conversations of what we want from our students. Can we meet some of these goals in regards to purposeful learning in 42 minutes? Maybe our classes look more like 60 minutes and they're in blocks. Do our students really need to wait at the bus stop at 6:30 in the morning? We're all aware of the research of what's out there. It's much different than it was in the 80s. Our high school students are involved in athletics, in the fine arts. Many of them are working. They don't get home till 10, 11 o'clock at night. And then they're doing homework and they're back at it at 5:30, getting up and at the bus stop at 6:30. The opportunities we have for our students, I think, is the perfect opportunity built on this framework to revisit of what are the experiences we want our students to have K through 12. Inside and outside of the classroom with internships, job shadowing. I think this is part of the bigger picture, and the one takeaway that I would share with all of you is that this is not going to sit on a shelf or an electronic shelf. This is going to become actionable. Just like you're starting to see with the portrait of a graduate as you're looking around our district. One of the concerns with the portrait in some of the small groups was, can we get this off the ground? We are going to get it off the ground and we are going to soar. But we all have to have that mission, vision, core value, shared beliefs of where we're going as an organization. And I believe Dr. Boyers, Dr. Thomas, and the stakeholders have really captured what that looks like and feels like for our students. So I'm just very appreciative of all the work that they have put forth in regards to where we're going as an organization.
Wonderful. Do we have 5 to move it forward?
Drew, would you like to
Thank
vote
you.
on that one? I said, would you like to vote on that one?
Thank you, guys. I really do appreciate all of the work that you've put into it. I know there are several of us who have ridden along with you through that, but I think you've done a great job of taking what our community has shown us and put that into a meaningful plan going forward. All right, next up, artificial intelligence core team update. I was going to say, I have a feeling Dr. Boyers is standing back up.
So back in the fall, we had a unique opportunity when Dr. Zarmak applied to be an AI fellow and was awarded an AI fellow through the Allegheny Intermediate Unit. At that point in time, it really put our AI into full motion. We were starting to begin having conversations about AI incorporation. What does it look like? What does it mean like in our classrooms? What does it mean like to have learning with integrity with AI? And we started having those dialogue and conversations, but once he got accepted, we said, let's go full systems go. And so I appreciate his leadership and desire to be a part of that AI fellowship. And we'll talk about some of that connectedness this evening. So this evening, I just want to bring the board an update of the work that's been happening since the fall and where things may look a little bit different next school year as we move forward here. So obviously thinking about that alignment to our portrait, AI presents some unique opportunities. We have adaptability with use of technology. We have different ways and different means of communicating. We have different bots, if you will, that may be critical thinking partners with us. And so what does that look like? What does that sound like? And how does that drive forward education in the Plum Borough School District? Our AI core team is made of different teachers, different building leaders. But again, we've also had the opportunity to go South by Southwest in Austin, Dr. Zarmak and I, and connect with leaders from a national level, but also in the fellowship regionally with other school districts and what they're doing and learn the different practices from them and things that they're implementing as well. The one thing that we immediately thought about is AI, and you start to think the temperature in the room goes up a little bit because you have teachers of going like, oh my goodness. So someone's going to give my student feedback. Someone's going to be able to automate a quiz score for my student. Well, what does that leave for me? Well, what it leaves for you is this. AI is a tool, and we can either choose to embrace it or not embrace it. It's truly irrelevant. If we don't embrace it, it's going to embrace us and it's going to pass us by. As someone who oversees and works very closely with technology, I can tell you our kids are using it. I can see every time they touch it, the amount they touch it in a day, and what specifically they're using, because we're that sophisticated from a technological standpoint. But the thing it will never do is it will never, ever, ever replace the care, compassion that our teachers have to support our students. And so we start with this piece because it immediately brings that temperature down. Yes, AI has some unique opportunities, and it's going to continue to grow over time, but it will never, ever replace an educator and the care and compassion that they have for our students.
Next, just a quick overview of what it is. You know, it is a branch of computer science. I think the most important thing to stress is that it is not a cheating tool. It is a thought partner. It's used to dig deeper and take your thoughts and get creative with those. So it's not something to sit there and just used to answer questions, but more of a thought partner to dig deeper into that learning. And to stress that throughout the process, we also did meet, on the previous slide, you'll see like the student voice. We had meetings with 6th to 8th graders and also a group of 9th to 12th graders to get their perspective on this to share throughout the process and make sure we had their voice included as well. So for our AI core team, we had 4 buckets that we were focused on. Within our buckets, everybody oversaw that, and different members of the team contributed to each bucket and were assigned an area. The 4 buckets that came about, the way that these buckets became something was through the AI core team members, but also them speaking with their colleagues in the schools throughout the day. So there's members of each building at each level. So everybody had a voice in that. And when we got together, these were the buckets that we identified that we needed to work through from a systematic approach. The policy in the AR, obviously that is something that was addressed, I believe, last month at the board level and adopted. But also how those then tied into the code of conduct and handbooks. So those were communicated to the students and families as well, so they know those expectations. And that also provides our staff members with guidelines going forward. With those guidelines going forward, those were broken into a common language. That is a consistent approach, K to 12. So those kindergarten students next year, they will understand that language, and it's going to be consistent at every building. So as those kids come through, they understand, but also the staff members are consistent within the buildings and the grade levels and content areas as well of how it's being used in the way to utilize it within the classroom. And the last is the tools and the resources. The tools and the resources for the teachers to use, but also the ones that the students will be using too. Those we're very mindful of creating a toolkit through that will be shared out with all the employees through an employee intranet. The one thing that came about once the toolkit started to be developed was how much goes into that. We had to make sure that, you know, if you had an idea, but then there's also the technology piece that had to be vetted to make sure it was acceptable within the technology requirements. One Tech has a framework. The technology department would vet to make sure that that was a safety and security thing as well. So after the technology department vets that, then we could approve it, and we're working on breaking it down by content, grade level, professional development opportunities for the teachers to utilize, resources within those to kind of make it easier on the teachers to find, hey, this is something that I could work with, so they don't have to go through and try to find everything. We're trying to make little descriptions so they can come in and utilize their time better as well. Within the code of conduct, we went through this, but this is in there. That way it is clearly communicated to the students, but also the staff knows that too, to hold the kids accountable within their work. The one thing that I think is very important, again, is it is a tool. It's not a replacement for the students' thinking. It's not a cheating tool. It's a thought partner. That's what it's to be used for. So we will continue to speak to the students about that. Within those student meetings, at the middle level, the mindset of it versus the high school mindset of it is very opposite. So I think it's very important for us to make sure we educate the kids on how to use it correctly and what it's supposed to be used for. And I'm very confident within the middle school, if we start that framework earlier, as they come up through the system, they will understand that, and that's something that will be second nature to them as well.
Next, we just go into our common language. And so again, what we heard loud and clear from our teachers was, well, how do we kind of set the stage for the use of AI, and what does it really look like? What we don't want to do is dictate to our teachers, because as much as teaching is a science, it's also an art, and there has to be some creativity allowed for different things to happen in different classrooms. We recognize that. But we based our approach on a stoplight model, as again, it's age appropriate and folks can identify it. We know red means stop, let's not move forward. And so again, no matter if you're a kindergarten student, and trust me, some of them are using it, we can immediately call that to attention. And then what you can see here again is just we've clearly delineated and defined what AI is and what it isn't, and how does it impact this common language and common approach. And so again, red, we're not using AI at all. So immediately within the learning goal or the teacher presentation, a red stoplight will be up that no matter what we're doing with this learning activity, there is no AI utilized. Yellow, proceed with caution. So it's not meant to replace here, it's meant to help you think critically, give you ideas to help you summarize what you may be working towards, or it's also help as a writing support to bolster your writing, but again, it still needs to be your work. As students will matriculate through, we'll talk about how we can cite AI and cite the tools that are utilized that gives them the credential and the value of the resource that they call attention to and utilize to help support their work. And then lastly is green. It's kind of wide open. And so how can we utilize maybe a learning activity or a project-based learning activity that can really help students think differently and think outside the box? A early way to differently show the mastery of learning and the learning process. So, you know, every year, I think of Dr. Thomas as a science person, and every year, every kid has to take a lab safety quiz. Okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to say, don't break the glass, don't touch the tongs, okay, I get it. But again, how can we make that meaningful? How can we potentially take that same learning activity where lab safety is paramount and important, but transfer it to an opportunity where maybe students make a rap, or students make a poem, or students make a vlog, if you will, and they utilize AI as that tool and that mechanism to produce background music, to produce their script, to produce the video. So think about that one learning activity or assessment where kids went through a multiple choice 10-question test to assess that they're safe in the lab, and now we're cutting music we're splicing video, and we're putting context behind it, and all while showing mastery that we can be safe in the lab. It really brings the opportunity forward thinking, and actually full circle in real world. So that's going to be the purpose of the stoplight. Again, it gives teachers some flexibility, but also creates that consistent framework throughout our organization.
This is an example of what our AI toolkit looks like right now. So I'm not sure if you can see, but there is the program listed, and then there's the description, and this is available to the teachers. Everything is linked, so they will have access to that to start looking at and utilizing. Now we have the policy, we have the code of conduct ready, we could start to incorporate it more. But that way, those teachers have that at their access whenever they want. Over the summer, if they want to get involved in it, they're able to. There are all kinds of opportunities out there for teachers and students that we want to get them as many opportunities to utilize this throughout as it seems fit. And again, it's not replacing stuff, it's building off of it to make it more conducive in the classroom and challenge the students as well.
And I would just end that although this toolkit, I know it's hard to see here, it's pretty comprehensive. So we're doing a lot of background checks. Where is that information going? Making sure that that information is not being sold off to third parties. That's all being vetted on the back end. And so nothing, I want to be clear here. This is not the wild, wild west. So AI is going to continue to emerge, and this toolkit is very dynamic in nature that, ChatGPT is already on its 40th iteration. So if we have ChatGPT 39 on here, guess what? Next fall, we're probably going to go 41 or 42 or mini 40 or mini 45. And so we recognize and understand that we're going to have to continue to vet these tools, one for educators, but also for student use. But this toolkit truly outlines, if I'm a teacher that has some reluctance to jump into AI, what are the efficiencies and opportunities that may exist for me, but what are those safeguards? I don't want to be putting personally identifiable information in there. I don't want to be putting students' names in there. I don't want to be putting my students' names in there, because AI is as dumb as it's going to be right this second. The next second, as soon as someone dumps something into the AI tool, the large language model learns and it grows and it gets better. So it will continue to grow over time, but we want to be very strategic. And the last piece is the professional development. We've already started professional development this school year on March 21st. Our teachers engaged in an AI understanding module where they talked about what AI is, that talks about the modules and the learning language. It talked about prompting and how you prompt, and then it walked them through some different scenarios. It's actually one of the best, most positive feedback pieces we've received on PD to date. I can quantify that too. And then the last piece is leading into next year when we kick off the portrait fully and the strategic plan fully. We are also bringing in a keynote speaker who's going to take portrait and AI and tie them together and talk about how they live in harmony, if you will. And then we are working with external groups such as the AIU, Remake Learning, and other groups out of Connecticut. They're going to be coming in to be allowing our teachers to have a differentiated experience in PD. But they're going to be choosing 35-minute breakout sessions that helps them kind of think of the Goldilocks of where am I in AI, what's my comfort, and what's my right temperature for my bowl of porridge. And so we'll slowly roll out that AI component through a PD that way to get people engaged. So that's an update. You don't have to vote on anything, but we're here to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Yeah, I have a quick question. My understanding is that with AI becoming so popular, particularly with math, that students and, well, I guess it's teachers and educators are having students revert to pencil and paper to show them how they came to the conclusion for the formula or the problem. Is that something that you predict would happen here at Plum?
We could definitely approach it that way, Mr. Caligiuri. So we also know that AI is not fully accurate. So some math teachers are putting prompts into AI to prove that there are steps along the way that AI will absolutely get wrong. And what's going to happen at that point in time is kind of that reverse engineering of learning. So if Drew knows how to solve for X, but the problem that solves for X is wrong, the student, such as Drew, would have to work backwards from the answer to figure out where in the process the learning and or the misstep happened. And so the ability to think critically and think backwards about, do I know the end in mind? Do I know this answer is incorrect? And oh, by the way, where indeed is it incorrect? So again, you are right, there are math tools that I could take a picture of and that will solve any inequality for me. But the reality of the situation is I, as the end user, one, have to acknowledge my use, and two, I have to ensure that the question that's in front of me or the answer I'm providing is indeed accurate. Because again, that tool, depending on the prompt, depending on the information fed into that large language model, may indeed prove incorrect.
Okay, so it sounds like the teachers would know if a student was using AI to solve a math problem and then it worked backwards for them. Is that what I'm...
There are AI tools, yes sir, there are AI tools to vet AI use. And so it does call attention. I can dump something into an AI tool to see how much AI was used, and just like red ink or a plagiarism checker, it will tell me exactly the amount of AI that was utilized, what sentences, what spaces, and where.
Okay.
And I think the other important,
I appreciate that.
yeah, the other important part that Dr. Zarmak just whispered to me, but I'll say it since I'm at the mic, is really about knowing your students. If Ashley Boyers turns something in, and then 4 weeks later I turn something else in, I'm not a strong writer, folks. I am not a strong writer. So if you see my lackluster 2-paragraph, 3-paragraph essay, and then all of a sudden you see a 5-paragraph essay with 30 footnotes and citations, I either paid an editor, like I did for my dissertation, or B, I plagiarized. So again, it's about knowing your students and knowing that learning process.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
My daughter is a professor at a university, and she sees this constantly, the plagiarism and the cheating even at the college level. So will each individual teacher have to have an AI checker, or will there be some type of AI program district-wide that teachers can use?
The answer could be yes to both. So AI, as I mentioned earlier and multiple times now, we can see everything our students and teachers do. It's just the reality of keeping people safe. So I could give you a report right now that at 3:31, X amount of kids were using AI. I can tell you what tool they were using. I can tell you where they were using it at, and I can tell you the length of time they were engaged in the AI tool. So as a district, we have that sophistication to drill down into that. The second piece is we have Little Sis, which is another system that can be utilized that can see exactly in real time what students are using in the classroom. So if I am an English teacher and I push out a TDA, I can pull up all 30 screens immediately, or 25 screens or what have you, and see exactly what our students are utilizing. But to your point, Mr. Sapolsky, yes, there are also other tools that we will vet that will allow us, just for like plagiarism before, for not having a proper citation, that we can call attention to the inappropriate use, specifically when we're on a red or a yellow. If we're on a green, and again, it's not about so much, we want to have good academic integrity, but we also want to teach that when it is appropriate, that you give the proper citation to the tool and or resource that you utilized to help assist your thinking.
And I think that too, it's important to remember, just with utilizing it, it still doesn't go away with formative assessments. If every kid's turning in perfect papers one day, if they walk in the next day and you give them the same problems and say, all right, guys, let's figure this out, going back to knowing your students and just formative assessments, they're going to know they need to make sure that they're being taught, learning that, because they're going to be asked to show that as well. So it's tough, but it's going back to knowing your students, using formative assessments, and I think it ties back to the quote. It's not going to and the caring of the teacher, it's not going to change that.
AI, in my opinion, is going to transform what teaching and learning looks like. We may be working at a time where we're going to see significant shifts of what teaching and learning looks like, the tools that are available. This core team has put in the work to start to educate us as an organization, to update our policies, to update our academic integrity, and to educate our students. But along this process, a part of this process, and a very important part of this process, are our teachers. This is new to some of our teachers too. Our kids are probably, in some areas, more proficient than most of us in this room right now. They're merged with this tool. but we need to teach them how to harness this tool in regards for their personal growth and just not to get the answer. Because getting the answer is not going to get them to where they necessarily need to be in life. Because you need to have the application and the understanding behind what you're doing in class. So I really commend the work that has been done here, because this is a focus not only for Plum, but districts around the country are all grappling right now with where's that happy medium with AI usage, plagiarism, and finding that happy balance. So this is a good start, but this is evolving. And next year, as we give updates, or 6 months from now, 6 weeks from now, we're going to continue to give updates of what our best thinking and what research is informing us of. I would ask Drew, in regards to AI, what are your thoughts in regards to what you heard tonight? And, you're getting ready to transition from high school to college and having the power of this tool in your hands and what that means to you.
To start, not trying to be a snitch, but we all use AI.
That's my point.
Yeah, on a daily basis, whether the teachers know it or not, we all use it. So there's no point, as he said, to not embrace the fact that we have this tool at our hands. On spelling tests, what's the point of doing a spelling test if I can just go look up how to spell a word or use AI to write an entire essay for me when I go home? I think in that regard, it's necessary for us not only to teach the teachers, like you mentioned, how to use it, but also teach the students how to use it to, not only help write the essays, but actually use those essays to write their own essays. I'm writing a graduation speech because of this role, and whenever I went home and I knew I had to write it, I decided to plug just a generic prompt into AI just to see kind of the path it would take, what thought process it would have, and then go from there to write my own essay from it. Instead of just using that essay, I actually used what it gave me and made my own framing, made my own paragraphs. And I think that was really helpful because it's hard in a world where people aren't willing to share their work as much, just going from there instead of just starting anew.
Can I say something really quickly? I don't talk much about what I do at the AIU because, I'm not really sure what I can and can't say there. So anyway, we went and sat through a presentation from their group that went to, I think Texas somewhere, right? Sorry, there's a car light in my face. I'm trying to look at you, so I'm trying not to be rude, but anyway, I'm trying not to squint and be rude. But I found it very informative, and it was, this was like a micro piece of what they showed us. And how to embrace AI, and also back to the learning tools, that toolkit. And we're not doing this in a vacuum in our own little space here in Plum. Those toolkits are being shared. And the IU in particular is working to generate and verify every tool that's available in the toolbox. So it is something that we're all able to do in a collaborative effort to be sure students across the board are using the proper tools. And the teachers are as well, and the training. And this whole thing scares me to death. Maybe I'm just old now at this point. The whole thing of AI scares me to death, but I know teenagers in my house, they're using it, and it's very in front of me. I gave all of you tonight, when I came back from Harrisburg from PSBA, there's a 6 or 8 week training. If you want to delve into it and understand it more, or have a more in-depth working group with it, sign up. I think the first group is filled, but then there's additional groups going forward. And so much of it, Dr. Boyers and Dr. Zarmak are saying tonight and presenting, and a lot of what we sat through at the IU, I didn't see it in my Friday update, and if it was, maybe it was a week prior and I could share it. But from what that entire presentation was from the Texas trip and what that group collaboratively has put together over the course of the last year, and I gained a lot of knowledge, and now it's only made me want to learn more, if that makes any sense to you. So I intend on signing up for one of these sessions to PSBA, and it is multiple weeks, and so it is a time commitment, but if you really have questions and really want to know sort of how it's being used, there's a hands-on toolkit for you to really dig in and write your paper, be a part of collaborative groups, and understanding what our kids are using.
An email did come on Monday with this.
Yeah, I just brought you a
So
little folder,
everybody
a little fancy thing today.
I just wanted to comment real quick on the importance of citation. I know you both referenced that, but I was thinking that, the importance of the teachers knowing how to properly cite the AI tools and then applying that and making sure our students know how to properly cite. Because I think a lot of that, if we are using it, to make sure that we're citing it properly so we can avoid some plagiarisms. Is that constantly evolving and the way?
Yes, it is. And I guess an easy way, a simple way for me to think of it is like 20 years ago, if you Googled something, people are like, I can't believe you just Googled that. You cheat, and now we're telling people, I don't know, go ahead and Google it. Like before you were looking at encyclopedias, if you Googled something, it was like, I can't believe you did that. And now it's like, yeah, go ahead, Google it. If you don't know, it is evolving, and it's going to continue to evolve. And to tie it back into the portrait of a graduate, when these kids are going to college, and they are utilizing it at college, but after that, when they're going on job interviews, those are the questions. What do you utilize AI for? What's your experience with AI? Because it is creating efficiency within companies, and these companies are looking for it because it's just as new for them as it is for everybody else. So I think it's preparing our students for post-secondary education as well.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Dr. Anderson, before you move on, can I congratulate our TSA crew for their big victory at Seven Springs was Battle of the Bots, right? Yes. All I know is I was sitting there doing something and I screamed out loud, very loudly, probably very embarrassing for them. Thank God they weren't there. Go Mustangs! I was screaming. It was really embarrassing. But congratulations to all of you. I know that we're building on that group and on that club, and so I was very excited to see that happen.
Absolutely.
And a follow-up congratulations. I was folding laundry a couple Saturdays ago, last Saturday, and I hear Plum Borough School District at the KD quiz. You guys rocked it. So that was really very cool too. I was like, wait a minute, and I stopped, and it gave me a reason to sit and watch, and I've never seen that before. So thank you for that.
Yep, thank you for sharing.
That was awesome.
Yep. All right, next up, Finance, Mr. Stropke, Lead Board Liaison.
Letter A is the monthly budget report for April. If there's no questions, do we have 5 to move that forward? We're good? Okay. Letter B is the adoption of the 25-26 final budget and the resolutions 1 through 3. Before we go there, Mr. Manager, do you have anything to highlight?
Sure, I wanted to highlight the homestead information that we received since the last meeting.
Yeah.
So reflected in the final budget was an increased homestead allocation. The district received an increase of $378,000 roughly for that allocation, which means per homestead about a $48 increase. So if you're a homeowner, typically you qualify for the homestead. And overall, what that does to the tax increase is the monthly increase is less than $2 a month. And that is a less than a 1% increase for the median assessed value. So everybody's tax increase is different, but the homestead applies equally to everybody. So that means a little something different for everybody. But if you're basing on the median assessed value, less than a 1% increase is really good news, I think, for the taxpayers that have an approved homestead. Other than that, no significant changes to the budget, but that was really good news that we received.
Yeah, I just want to add, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't have the exact number, but I think it's around over 7,000 taxpayers' homes participate in the homestead out of 10.
Yeah, that's about right. 7,733 homesteads, and Yeah, that number of total was what we discussed, I believe, yep.
About 75% participated in it, so it's good news for the community on that reduction.
And we do a required mailing to every year is that if you do not have a homestead approved, you receive a notice from the district and instructions on how to apply. So on a yearly basis, we encourage everybody to sign up for the homestead exemption.
So on letter B, do we have 5 to move the resolutions forward to the next meeting? Okay. Letter D is resolution, I'm sorry, I skipped one. Letter C is just a note, is the senior citizens rebate program applies a 5% discount on school districts' real estate taxes, mirroring the qualifications and aligning with Allegheny County's existing Act 77 process. If the taxpayer is not paid by the end of the face period, the 5% discount does not apply to the penalty. So again, for our senior citizens in the community, in addition to the Homestead Act, there's an additional 5% reduction that they can apply for at the local tax office. And the qualifications mirror the county qualifications.
And we send out a communication about this as well, right?
Yeah, we have this on our website, and our tax collector also is aware of this process, and same thing too, Allegheny County does this automatically, so there's advertisements that's done well through the county.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I don't know, I mean, if it's something that we can, when the tax bills go out, is there something else that can go in there just to highlight it one more time, or?
Tax bills is tough. That mailing is pretty stringent as far as what's included in there and the expenses involved in there. But we do put this on our December budget workshop and our March budget workshop to make sure that everybody knows about it. So we do as much as we possibly can to make sure that citizens.
Plum magazine too, I think we did, right?
We did.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
Plum, is that what
Yeah.
you just said?
Yeah,
We'll
I think,
continue to
yeah.
advertise opportunities for our taxpayers.
sure. I think we just continue to over communicate, and then it gives everybody, you know.
Yeah, that In Plum magazine had it in there too. That was a great way to advertise it to everybody.
Yeah. Okay, there's nothing really we don't have to motion anything there. Letter D, Resolution 2025, authorization to proceed with the capital projects financing.
So this is the next step in our financing plan of the $30 million. And Melissa Hughes from PFM is here to provide a little bit of an overview of the process that we've already reviewed previously, but this is updated information, so thank you for attending, Melissa. Go ahead.
Great, thanks. So I'm going to speak from this presentation in front of you. I'm going to begin by giving a market update. So probably you guys, when you think of the market, you think of the stock market. But when I think of the market, I think of the bond market, the municipal bond market. That's the one where any kind of local government like the school district can go out and look for investors to sell their bonds to, and in exchange for selling those bonds, you get cash to do important projects like renovate your middle school. Just big picture, this is a graph of that tax exempt index. It's called the BVAL index over the last 30 years or so, back to 1993. The key takeaway here from this picture, this gives you a sense of the highs and lows over the last 30 years. We are essentially right at the 30-year historic average in terms of interest rates, except for at the very short end of the curve where you or I invest. So where you invest, you're doing a little bit better than average historically, and you're kind of at the 30-year historic average in terms of borrowing rates. The all-time lows were hit in August of 2020. So that's the low end of the curve, and the high end of the curve, you got to go all the way back to 1994 for that. So if you scroll down just a little bit, this gives you a sense of the day-to-day movement of that index if you had a perfect credit rating. And so a credit rating is the way that entities like the school district are assessed on their credit. Like you or I would have a personal credit score. You know, we want to have a credit score in the 800s. For a credit rating, we want to have a AAA. That would be our goal. The district has been on a journey over the last number of years to improve its credit rating and has done really a tremendous job of improving its credit rating. When we started working with the district, which I believe was in early 2020, it had a credit rating of BBB minus negative outlook from Standard & Poor's. Today, it has credit ratings from both credit rating agencies, Moody's and Standard & Poor's. Those are the two that rate districts in Pennsylvania. And Moody's rates the district A2, which is a 5-notch increase from the comparable S&P rating, and S&P rates the district A-. That's a 4-notch upgrade. The rating agencies take different perspectives and look at things at different points in time, so you don't always move in perfect conjunction, but we'd expect, with enough time, those will equalize to one another. And that's really a testament to some of the practices and procedures that the board and administration have put in place around, financial management. When I was sitting in the audience fidgeting, because that's what I do, because I go to board meetings like every night, I was struck by how goal-oriented Plum is compared to any other place I go. I know that you have KPIs specifically around your fund balance, around improving the rating. And I'm like, wow, they do the KPIs on everything. I mean, that's not necessarily the words you use, right? But so goal-oriented and so, quantifiable, right? Everything's quantifiable, which I really think is great. But so back to what this means. So if you have a perfect credit rating, this is what it looks like. Because none of us have perfect credit ratings and the district's credit rating isn't perfect either, if you look at that chart and say, oh, the current rate is a 3.32, that's not the rate that we can access because there's a spread on top of that. So, the real rate today is something like a 4.5, so there's that spread. But as your credit rating improves, that spread gets tighter or smaller. Smaller spread means less dollars that you pay, means less burden on the taxpayers and on the budget. So that's why all of those things matter. As you go down to the next graph, this just gives you a sense of what rates have done over the last year and a half or so. This is a zoom in on there. You'll notice at the end of the graph here, rates went up very quickly and then came back down. That was the market reacting to the uncertainty around the initial tariff announcements. The market likes nothing less than it likes uncertainty. It doesn't even really matter what the thing is. It just doesn't like uncertainty. And so that created a lot of uncertainty. Market didn't know how to react, so it kind of freaked out. Things have calmed down substantially, and we've had really pretty good results. We sold bonds for Cumberland Perry Area Career and Technology Center today, and that went great. There's a lot of demand. So just a little bit of data on the market. As we go forward, these are just some bullet points. I'm not going to go over all of these points. I'll kind of talk about them as we talk through the additional things, but these are kind of written out for you to reference later. So let's go ahead and look at the district's existing debt portfolio, which is on the next page. There we go. It is so small because you have lots of series of debt. Don't worry, you don't have more than most districts your size in terms of number of bond series. The top half of the page is your gross debt service. So that is the principal and interest that the district has promised to pay its investors, unless it does something like a refinancing. So just like you or I can refinance our home mortgage, we can refinance your bond debt too, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Some of your debt gets state aid, the old PlanCon program. Not the new stuff, but the older stuff. Some of it does. So the bottom half of the page is your local effort. So the column that we pay attention to when we think about what does the district have to pay annually, it's that local effort, column number 26. So if you zoom in real big there, I will read the numbers to you. In your 2025 budget, your local effort is $7,660,000, roughly. So that is what it takes on a local effort basis to pay your debt service. So that's the number that we pay attention to when we're thinking about adding new debt, comparing to that baseline. I talked about opportunities for refinancing. So if you look down at the bottom of the page, you'll notice a line called call date. So that is the first opportunity which the district can refinance its debt. That is your option and your option only. And so if rates today are higher than the old rates you have locked in, we will tell you to do nothing. And I can tell you, we're going to do nothing, at least as of where rates are right now. You have some debt that's callable, but the rates that you have are lower than what you can get today. If that changes, we will be on the phone to you so fast, telling you that, we should evaluate our options. Does anybody have any questions about the market, the district's existing debt, or your credit ratings? Okay. So let's review the plan. The most exciting page. So the green is where we're going to start. We're actually going to start looking down column number 8. This is your total local effort as it stands right now. So if you compared back to the page we just looked at, the total would match column 8. Because we have already locked in roughly $10 million of financing for this $30 million plan. And you use that, I understand, a little bit on the one elementary school and some on the middle school, right? Yep. So you've started spending out of that bond issue, and then we'll come back. Tonight we're here to talk about the blue. So this is a second $10 million tranche. And then finally we'll come back in 2026 and have a third $10 million tranche. And you might be sitting there and wondering, why are we issuing bonds in $10 million increments? Well, the IRS gives incentives to investors for working with smaller issuers. And they define smaller issuers as folks who issue $10 million or less per calendar year. You get slightly lower interest rates. The value of the interest rate differential varies over time. It's a little bit less than in some points in time, but there's still value there. And also, you get a 5-year call feature, which means you have an opportunity to refinance that debt after 5 years. If you issue in increments bigger than 10 million, it's 8 to 10 years. So you have to wait a longer period of time. That shorter call feature, especially when rates are just a little bit higher, close to that historic average, is more valuable as you manage your debt portfolio over time. You manage that interest cost over time. It's part of how you manage the whole capital program over time. So that's one reason. The second reason is there's another incentive that the IRS offers. If school districts, this is special for school districts, issue $15 million or less in a calendar year, you can take and invest the money at an unlimited rate for up to 3 years. Why does that matter? So even though that those borrowing rates are a little bit higher, those investment rates, those short-term rates, those are also higher. So that lets us keep all of those higher investment earnings. Otherwise, you can only keep up to the rate that you borrow at and for a shorter period of time. And then all that difference has to go back to the IRS. So it lets us keep more money, which means we ultimately need to issue less debt at the end of the day, which is one of my goals as your financial advisor. Do as little as we need to. And so those two reasons together is why we're looking at a $10 million plan over 3 calendar years. And finally, it makes it easier on your budget. Spread it out over more years. So those are all good reasons. Again, if you give this authorization to proceed with the financing plan, you are only authorizing step 2. We will come back and get a separate authorization at the appropriate time on the final step of the plan. So, as a board, you're updated on the plan, but you're only authorizing the next step. I just want to make, a couple other, don't zoom down too much here. A couple other focus items on columns 13 and 14. Column 13 identifies what the estimated local effort would be by the time we get to the end of the plan. So right now, you have $7,680,000 in your budget. That's what you're going to pay this year on a local effort basis. and you're gonna need to get up to 8,955,000. You can see the kind of red box around there. That equates to 0.97 mils. Now you can pay for it however you want to. We just take the dollar amount and we equate it to what it means in mils. Right? We're not saying that you're gonna raise mils to do that. We're just equating it. And that debt service has to be in the budget no later than 1 year after the completion of the project, whatever that means. So let's talk about the timeline. We're here, it's May 13th. At the May 27th meeting, you could consider the sample motion, which is above, that authorizes the financing team of PFM, we're the district's independent financial advisor. So our job is to sit on your side of the table and be the district's fiduciary. So we have a legal fiduciary duty to the school district to make sure that you're getting the best available deal in the market. Your underwriter is Stiefel Nicholas. They're the ones who actually go out and find the investors. They're great to work with, but they have interests that are different than yours because they have investors to satisfy who want slightly different things than what you want. They want high rates, you want low rates. You want more flexibility, they want more guarantees. Right? So that's where we come in and make sure that what you're getting is fair. They're a great firm to work with. And then Dinsmore and Scholl is your bond counsel. They're a specialized attorney that focuses on bond work. And then your local solicitor is a part of the process as well. So that's the financing team. And then Ryan is obviously leading the charge from the district perspective. At the June the 17th meeting, we would come back with a parameters resolution. I want to, if you take nothing away from this presentation, please take this away, okay? When you're gonna do the parameters, the number at the top of the page, even though we're only going to issue $10 million of bonds for all of those tax reasons that I went over, will say $12 million. And this is because the parameters process that the state lays out makes us identify in each year that we expect to issue bonds a maximum principal amount. It also says that we have to have level debt service at the end of the day. And so in order to accomplish those things, when we don't know what the market will be like on the day when we sell bonds, we have to add a little bit of extra principal in each one, 20% to each maturity. So then when you add 20% to each maturity, whoop, you end up with a $12 million schedule. And this is the number one call I get. People being like, oh no, it says 12 million. I don't want to issue $12 million of bonds. It's okay. Does anybody have any questions about that part? Because I said that one real fast. But don't panic. We're going to issue 10. This is, I think, the key takeaway. June 24th would be the first day that we could potentially lock rates in, assuming that the market permitted. And then you'd get money 35 days later, which would be June 29th. That also happens to be your Act 34 hearing date. That is simply a coincidence. We will also be back for the Act 34 hearing, which I know you're also going to hear about a little bit later tonight. I will say that we prepared some of the financial tables in the back. And so what those financial tables in the back of the Act 34 hearing booklet does is they take out and they kind of lift out the pieces that are associated with that project, kind of the schedules. So if you kind of compare them, this is for a little bit more money than those schedules will be, because this has two projects together and that is just for one. I think that's kind of as much detail as is relevant from me on that part. Any questions? Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Melissa.
So Ryan, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, that was a good overview. We'll do it one more time after this.
So do we have 5 to move the resolution forward to the May 27th meeting?
1, 2, 3.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Stropke. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for waiting. We appreciate you. All right, on to Forbes Road CTC, Ms. Chudderwitz, lead board liaison.
Okay. Letter A, the 2025-26 Forest Road CTC Operating and Administrative Budget. Ms. Cass, the Joint Committee's business manager and board secretary, has prepared the detailed attachment. Does anybody have any questions or any discussion regarding that? I just wanted to highlight that the administrative budgets, the net cost per student is approximately $5,448 based off a total projected enrollment of 850 students. Our contribution to the budget is $62,410.80. The general fund balance was presented and approved by the Joint Committee at our last meeting, and is now presented for all of you for the review and approval. And any unexpended funds are either returned to our home district or rolled over to the general fund, or a combination of both. That's going to be voted on by the Joint Committee. Is there any?
Megan, I've got a question.
Yeah.
I scanned this over the weekend to see, like, I know Forbes is talking about this massive renovation. Are they preparing for that in any way? Like, I mean, truthfully, if there's an overspend, I don't want it back. Bank it, because we're gonna have to spend a lot. And what is that number gonna look like for our district, right? Like, I think as we're having these conversations about how much money we're borrowing, and then now the resolution for this O-Block project is $2 million more than the numbers that were put in front of us. Like, where are we with Forbes? What's that number going to be for us?
Right now, they're in their stage of looking for bonds, looking for funding, finalizing all the proposals by their developer. And then once that comes back, I will absolutely report the finite figures, what we're looking at, because that has to be approved by all of the home districts to push that through.
I can add to this too. I've been attending the meetings at Forbes. I'm actually attending graduation tomorrow night at Gateway High School for our Forbes students. It's a couple of things that we need to be mindful of. One is our borrowing limit. We have been in conversations with Forbes and working with Mr. Manzer and their business manager to make sure that we did not exceed our spending limit. Mr. Manzer, you want to talk just a second or two about that?
Yeah, so as we just referenced, we have the $10 million bond limit that we're trying to stay under. There's concerns that this may put that in jeopardy. We ran it through our bond council. They came back and said that was not an issue for us the way that it's being done on their side. So there's no issues of going over that limit. Obviously, there would be a budget impact if there's debt service payments, but that is yet to be determined.
So I'd say that's one. Second, and if you're reading and staying current with VOTEC, more students now than ever are going back to VOTEC. That is true in Plum, and it's true in surrounding districts. In conversations and meetings I have sat in at Forbes, they have electrical switches that if it goes down, they cannot replace it. I believe it was like 52 or 53 weeks. A lot of their equipment is obsolete. It needs to be updated. And if we do not invest in our VOTEC program, we are not going to have a VOTEC program for our students to go to. Is this going to have an impact on our budget? It is. Will it have a significant impact? I would say it would be a moderate impact in regards to going into fiscal 26-27. As the numbers start to reveal themselves, we will keep this board informed. When we know information, we will keep you updated, and it's something we have to keep a close eye on. But at the end of the day, you know, we sit here and talk about our comprehensive plan. This is for all students, and we want to make sure that all students are college and career ready upon graduation. So that financial piece, obviously I'm very mindful of it and working closely with Mr. Manzer. Mr. Manzer has done a masterful job in regards to where we are financially in the district, and along with recommendations and this board's stick-to-itiveness in regards to working within those plans, we are in a much better position, as you just heard. Our last bond that we issued, we went from B to A-, which saved us roughly over $1 million in interest because we're getting our financial house in order. So a lot of this is still evolving. And I think between the both of us, hopefully we will not miss anything along the way, and we'll keep everybody informed.
I just wanted to bring it up because we're talking budget and where we are with
That's a perfect time to bring it up.
Right?
Thank you, Ms. Chudowitz.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, do we have 5 to move that forward? Thank you.
Perfect. All right, intergovernmental, Mr. Stropke and Ms. Arendt, co-lead board liaisons. I'm not sure which of you.
Yeah, I'll take this one. We just have one item on here under letter A. It's approval for district buses to transport attendees to and from the following Plum Borough community events. Summerfest in June, the Junior Firefighter Academy, which is in late June, and Winterfest held December 5th. Do we have 5 to move that forward? Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Arendt. All right, next legislative, Mrs. Stepnick, lead board liaison.
Yes, we have 2 items. Letter A is our annual renewal for PSBA for our membership dues. Does anybody have any questions about that? And we have 5 to move that one forward. The second is to appoint 2 voting delegates, so we're allowed to have 2 votes. Some districts get more or less, so we are allowed to have 2 votes. This is something in years past, pre-COVID, it was wonderful because you would go to the annual conference and you'd have a lot of collaborative effort and conversation and working with other districts and talking about the legislative agenda going forward, and you would vote when you were there. And that part was great because your dialogue was way better. I think Mike and I have done it, Renee's done it online, that the voting 2 weeks after, it's not the same. The dialogue is terrible. And the time management, they do their absolute best. So this is exciting that now it's back this year in person. I actually talked to PSBA about it today, and they said that was like the biggest feedback and push was to get it back to the delegate assembly to be back at that conference for many of those same reasons. So we would need 2 of us to do that. And then attend the conference. If anybody else, I think the conference is a great learning tool as well.
Yeah, I'd enjoy going to the conference this year, so I'd be willing to do that if it works out.
Anybody else? Okay, do you want to go too? It wouldn't hurt to have a team of people there. Dr. Walsh ran around with us last year. We sat with the agenda, and I've said for many years, a team is better than 1 or 2. He went in one direction, Renee went in one, I went in one.
Take 3. I know that superintendents attend with their board members, and I would plan on going with whomever that the board decides to send.
So you can do we just need, for this action, we need to name 2 voting delegates who would go?
Right, so you would be going to the conference in addition, because it would make no sense to drive to Kalahari across the state.
But we can have more than 2 attend the conference.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, right. Right, yeah. And it doesn't mean I would have to be the voting member if more than 2 of us go. I could vote for the IU, or it doesn't, that makes no difference.
Yeah, sure, okay. So we need 2 do we need to pass 2 by this end of May?
Yes.
Okay. So I say, why don't people just think about it, if you'd be interested in going or what have you. Let Michelle know and board leadership know, but if not, if you're willing to go again, the 2 of us.
Absolutely, yeah, that's fine. But I think, like I said, the team is better than 1 or 2, because again, there's not the same session multiple times.
Sure.
It's one session and then the next session and then the next one. And it all depends on the level of where you are as a board member, depends on what you'll get out of a session or where you would go. So that's why I asked Jen to put it on the schedule, like put on our agenda for tonight, have that conversation, and we do need to pick who those voting delegates will be.
It's not unusual last year that districts had 3, 4, 5 members attending, because there are many breakout sessions. And a lot of what you're asked to do as volunteers and as members of the school board, it just helps you hone your skills and brings you up to speed on best practices and how to operate and function as a board.
Yep.
So it's valuable, PD.
And I have one final thing.
Yep.
Today I was in Harrisburg I felt like the whole day, but it's only like 3 hours, traveling back and forth. And there is some cyber charter positive news. The chair of the Education Committee in the House is committed to getting that cyber charter legislation out no later than the beginning of June. So in the next week or two, we should see that. Speaking with our Senate office, they understand that the challenge is going to be in the Senate. It's not going to be in the House. But I think that they're also seeing the financial constraints that are being put on all their districts. And so that dialogue is happening, and they felt it was a little bit more positive this year for that dialogue. So again, we are in the early stages of what that should look like, but the chair in the House is determined to get that out of committee and get it to a vote sooner rather than later, but by no later than beginning of June, understanding that we're done with our budget, but all of our districts are voting on budgets, and we need that number. We need to know what that looks like. So that was important. And many of our talking points, one was about Plan Con, and I said, speaking of Plan Con, I'd like to have a conversation about the fact that we have to have this hearing. And none of our project has anything to do with Plan Con. It's an unnecessary expense on our school district. So I would ask you all to look back into what that looks like. Because if you're going to require it, then fine, but then provide the funding for it too. And we talked a little about that unfunded mandate. And then we also talked about back to the safety and security grants and why and how they were kind of all over and so competitive. And really every district has needs, and it'd be wonderful to be able to fund districts in a more equitable way. So we can get those grant monies. And I did highlight the projects that are coming up in Plum that are important for us to look for. And as soon as we do those grant applications for whether the middle school roof or other facilities, I was asked to alert the legislative staff and our legislators immediately so they would follow and track.
Just so we're all aware, this is really, it bothers me how school districts fund cyber charter. Some districts per student pay $23,000. There's a district near Philadelphia that pays $63,000 per student.
Yeah.
There's 500 different formulas in Pennsylvania. Cyber charter schools have tens and hundreds of millions of dollars in their fund balance.
Yep.
They don't have to replace chillers and pave lots like we're going to talk about shortly.
Yep.
Putting a cap on that would mean an additional $560,000 staying in the district. I participated in a press conference at Advocacy Day with other superintendents, and in your board packets on Friday is a copy of that press conference. I would urge all of you to look at that to get a real sense of what is happening around the state in regards to cyber charter. The Auditor General did reports, did not come back glowing. And it's a shame that we're sitting here talking about raising taxes and they have more money than they know what to do with. We talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. I think we need to start looking closely at how our tax dollars are being spent in the cyber charter space. So, I'm sorry, that gets me going every time.
No, Dr.
Because that's
Walsh,
money that's coming away from our students.
110%, and I go back to elections have consequences, and this is certainly one of them, and this is a big one. It's time the state cracks down and does what they're supposed to do, because I don't know how some of these people go back home and look at their taxpayers knowing that they haven't done right by them. I don't understand how you do that and then go and celebrate students at student activities in their local school districts knowing you haven't done right by them. So I'm as passionate as you are about it. And I'm just, all we can do is keep hammering home the importance of it for our districts. I'm not against
cyber charter. It's been in place for 20 years. I think parents should have choice.
Correct.
I'm not opposed to that. What I'm saying, there needs to be a better formula in how it is funded appropriately, because it is hurting public schools across the Commonwealth.
Yep.
So I had to put a caveat on that.
No, I agree with you. It's just, it's got its time and place. That's it, sorry.
Thank you, Mrs. Stepnick. That's okay. Operations, Mrs. Purcell, lead board liaison.
We do still need to move that voting delegate
I'm
for
sorry.
assembly forward, please.
Oh, so we just still need names for that?
Can we move it?
Well, if you just want to move the motion forward. And
Oh, yeah, sorry.
For vote on the 27th.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's fine.
Okay, do we have 5? All right, thank you. Okay, Mrs. Purcell, operations.
Hi, under operations, we have high school maintenance, repair, and replacement items 1 through 4. Number 1 is high school paving and line painting, which is JMS seal coating and asphalt, which is $99,470. Item 2 is high school elevator modernization. The company is Elevator HS Modernization. The proposal is TKE $108,742. The third is high school cold water pump replacement, which is Limbach at $68,250. And item number 4 is high school cooling tower replacement, Limbach also at $392,100. Any questions or anything, Ms. Schaefer, anything you want to add?
Item number 2, the elevator modernization. That is the elevator by the auditorium, which has been down for quite some time, which we had started to piece together and finally came to the realization that we needed to modernize that one. So we have new controls, new buttons, new all of these things, so we aren't just piecing away at it. And that will just totally redo it, and we're ready to go up and down again, which we haven't been able to almost the whole entire school year. Number 3 and 4 go hand in hand. Those are just both items that are beyond their life. And we only have one cooling tower, so when it goes down, and it goes down weekly, we will be without cooling. Those are vital to our operation.
Do we have 5 to move this forward?
We do. Mr. Minzer, just to, that's all coming out of the capital, just so everyone understands.
Correct. The majority will come out of capital, and we're also looking at the general fund as well to be able to, any leftover funding to be able to utilize that.
And the paving and line painting will be the entire parking lot, correct?
It'll be the whole around the
Kit and
campus.
caboodle up here.
Yes.
Yep, awesome. Okay, thank you. It is.
Yes, absolutely.
We have under letter B, purchase of 3 school buses for the 2025-26 school year. Busy Blue Bird is the name of the company, and it's $139,404 per unit. Does that mean per bus?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you look at that? We're still buying buses after all.
Well, we went from 4 to 3 in order
Thought I'd put that out there.
balance our budget, yes.
Yeah, this shows reduced spending due to that reduction in the budget. Plus, these are those half buses, so that also provides a little bit of efficiency for us this year.
Brian, I'm just mocking the fact that nobody thought we had to buy buses because we gave back the bus money and that we were never gonna have to buy buses now because that was just a waste.
Oh,
I'm
now
just-
we have to buy them, yeah.
Yeah, here we are. Now we're buying buses, like,
But the power did go out last week.
well, got that going for us. Gotta laugh sometimes.
Do we have any other questions? If not, do we have 5 to move this forward?
Good, thank you. All right, personnel, we don't have anything to vote on, or to move forward for this evening. So next up, policy, Ms. Arendt, which the world's longest.
Oh, I know,
list of
right?
policies.
Yeah, we have quite a bit on the agenda tonight in regards to policy, starting with 9 first readings, including a new policy recognizing parental and family involvement in education and that partnership. Do we have any discussion on the first reading policies?
Just the miniature horse, but I don't really need to discuss it. I just
Yeah.
thought he was cute, so. As a service animal.
Okay, if there's no questions, can we move these forward to second reading? Do we have 5? Okay, and then letter B, second reading policies, 1 through 11. Do we have 5 to move those forward?
I feel like this, we've talked about this.
Yeah. You say you want to say something,
No,
Michelle?
I said, I feel like we talked about those for a good bit.
Oh, yeah, we have. And then letter C, per policy 005 organization, we have the annual appointment of Ryan Manzer to remain the board treasurer. Also, the annual designation for Dollar Bank to remain as the district's depository of funds. And number 3, to elect Jennifer Macro as board secretary for a term of 4 years, beginning July 1st, 2025. Do we have 5 to move those 3 forward?
Mrs. Macro, are you sure?
I really want to
We should
do
check
this
with him.
I think I was looking
Notice, Ryan, you don't even get a choice. Do you want to do
No.
this again? You're just, you're, no.
Yeah.
Just- yeah.
I wasn't giving you the option.
Yeah,
Jen, I
there's
feel
no
like I was giving her the option.
Look, it's after 9 o'clock, so we can start to
Yeah.
laugh a little.
So-
Okay,
So that's,
I think we had
I think
5.
we have
Yep.
5. All right, we're all set. Thank you.
Okay, next up, projects and planning, Dr. Richardson and Mrs. Purcell, co-lead board liaisons.
Okay, first we have what Mrs. Stepnick mentioned, correct? Is that what you're talking about, our resolution to adopt adopt a maximum project cost and a maximum building construction cost for O'Block Elementary School addition and alterations project. Do you want to talk a little bit about this, Mr. Manzer?
Sure, yeah, we also have Rob Renzi here from HEG. If there's any questions, he did the majority of the work here on the preparation, so certainly thank you for all that work that it took. I know it was a lot of work. We also provided a draft of the booklet that will be provided for the June board meeting related to this Act 34. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to review that. I know that was a lengthy document. All of this process and information is a requirement from the state. If we are over 20% of an addition to a building, you have to move forward with Act 34. This was tied, as we mentioned at one point, to PlanCon reimbursements. That is no longer the case, but Act 34 is still the law, so you have to still follow this process. The building construction cost as well is only related to the addition, excluding the site costs. So that's why you're seeing that $6 million number there. And as well, the maximum project cost is the absolute highest cost that we've been provided. So we had 2 estimates from that Eccles Construction Management coordinated for us. It is the highest of those 2 without any deduct alternates or value engineering. So this is just a required process to provide the motion ahead of the Act 34 hearing that we'll have.
And that doesn't mean that that's absolutely what we're paying.
No.
No, I will absolutely vote no
Yeah,
until that
the-
number is reduced.
Yeah,
Sorry,
the-
we have, no.
Okay, so just a couple of things. After our last discussion meeting, we took into account feedback from the board. We went back with Hayes Design and we looked at opportunities to reduce the cost and have similar design. So we meet weekly with Hayes Design and we take the board feedback and we've already have started to put that into action. We actually have a meeting, I believe, at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So this is a collaborative process. This is an evolving process. And as I shared, this gives the board the utmost flexibility in regards to how we move forward. What we're asking for is going back to our initial spending plan, that we can look at updating the infrastructure and adding on the addition for all the reasons previously mentioned at O-Block, and also looking at the projects and the infrastructure at the middle school, including the field, including the gymnasium and those community spaces, and upgrading our middle school also. So all of that feedback is still in play. This is an evolving process and it's going to continue to have ongoing back and forth until the bids come in, if I'm not mistaken. Is there anything I've missed, Rob, that you would like to add, or?
Not specifically. I mean,
No?
if there's
Okay.
any questions on
Yeah.
it,
Okay.
There's a, like
was mentioned, it's a long document.
Yeah, long document, and it's, I think we're 22%, and the requirement was 20%, so this is a requirement, yeah.
Correct, just,
Yeah.
we're over the threshold and having to.
Dane, is there anything I missed that you would?
No, I
Okay.
think that perfectly sums it up.
We shouldn't be seeing the long document, right? We should just be seeing the resolution. I'm missing if I'm.
Yep, just the resolution is provided. The
Yeah, no, that's all we have.
Act 34 draft was provided in the executive summary and then will be included as part of the hearing for June.
Just making sure, yep.
I would like that we set the maximum cost lower than 28,376,000. It just, I'm sorry, but that just seems like an open checkbook.
Do you want to not have the projects completed at the middle school?
It doesn't say that.
Well, we're borrowing the money and we have flexibility of how we could utilize that money. Am I missing something, Mr. Manzer?
This is for the hearing for
I
the
understand.
O Block project.
And this is simply just the maximum. So
Yeah.
the cost is clearly going to be lower than this.
Yes.
There's
I'm
no
just gonna vote
expectation
no on
that
it.
we'll meet this cost.
I'm just voting no.
We have 5 minutes at 4.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Next, we have the Plum Middle School doors and windows bid, which is there for you. It came in at $879,500.
Is there, what we're anticipating?
What was the question?
I mean, what was the original anticipation of that?
This is under, yes, it was over $1 million, 1.1, I believe. Yeah,
Yep.
this is a competitive number. I didn't hear the amount that was stated, if you could. 870.
79.
They also, I don't know if you, there was we had a
Yeah.
deduct alternate in the project too that, in the amount of, or they provided an amount of
Another 16,200, yeah.
$16,200. If we go to an optional type of door system, which is equally appropriate for school construction, it was a matter of them being able to price it more competitively and get it on site quicker. So that'll bring the number down a little bit more as well.
But it also, regardless of which door we use, they're not going to be doing them until the fall.
That is they're gonna start in the summer, probably August. We just got the bids yesterday. We've been talking to the contractor about their schedule. There are lead times on the materials and they are committed with other projects over the summer. So we're trying to work it into August, at least getting started. Doing what we can to get them on site, field measuring, procuring things more quickly, but
Yeah.
there's no guarantees on that. They are working, in the bidding documents was a requirement if they can't meet the schedule of over the summer and it extends into the fall, that their hours would be after school, so 3:30 to whatever to do
Okay.
the work.
Okay.
Yeah, because in here it says September 15th.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
what I
wrong?
was saying.
That's what they stated. If we go with the other doors that I mentioned as an alternate, they can procure those more quickly, so it could move that into August.
If you see under the September 15th, there's a little asterisk. If FRP doors are
Right.
accepted, they can start a couple weeks earlier.
And how are we determining that? If we're gonna go
Which
with
door?
that?
The alternative door, I mean, it's
We recommend that you take that.
Take
The alternative?
Absolutely, yes.
That's $16,000 more dollars that can go to the middle school.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do we have to vote on that? Or
I'm doing
We're
it.
gonna discuss it tomorrow,
Over
yeah.
$900,000 that should be spent at the middle school.
The bid came in over $200,000 less than was anticipated, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to be sure, yeah.
So I'm adding up the 600 and some thousand, that right over 900,000 more that should go to the middle school.
Okay, do we have 5 to move that forward?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next up, Student Services, Mrs. Stepnick, Lead Board Liaison.
These are, item A is our annual agreement with the IU for the services that we use, and we are only billed on the services that we use. But you see the guide and the pricing, and again, but it's on an as-needed basis. Bob, from that forward, anybody have any questions about them?
Do we have time?
And then item B is more of the same, for Adelphi, AIU Title I, AIU Title III, and Bedner Leadership Academy. Any other questions on those? These are just renewals. It's more access and services for our kids on an as-needed basis. Is there 5 for those? Okay.
Thank you. All right, upcoming public meetings, there's a board action meeting Tuesday, May 27th at 7 PM here in the library. Board discussion and action meeting Tuesday, June 17th at 7 PM here in the library. And the Act 34 public hearing on O Block Elementary School addition and alterations Tuesday, June 24th, 6